Hi, I'm Yarlin,
And I'm Katie.
and this is Faye and Fables, a podcast hosted by two mental health counselors who take a psych deep dive into your favorite fantasy and romantasy books. Today, we are going to deep dive into A Court of Mist and Fury by
Ooh.
Sarah J. Maas.
Oh my God, girl. I am so fired up. Not to say that we don't love the first book, but
this one?
this one?
This one had me kicking my feet.
I was twitterpated. I
love this one.
And we finally get to say thoughts. We finally get to say feelings about people and things. And I just can't wait. Not to mention, by the way, we just kind of let it sink into our brains. This is our 30th episode.
Yes.
30.
It's incredible.
Episodes. Yeah. Over a year we've been doing this. So we're out here making the content, putting out the episodes. I'm so proud of us.
Yeah, I know. Doing the thing that we love and doing it together. I think that's what makes it so much more special.
Yeah.
So, thanks for doing 30 episodes with me, girl.
Oh, girl, thank you. Thank you for putting up with my shenanigans for 30 episodes. I wouldn't want to be doing this with anybody else. So I'm just, we're just Twitter-pitted about it.
Yeah. And for those who have listened, for 30 episodes, you are the OGs, you are there for us.
Seriously. We have some folks who are regular listeners, and y'all, not only do we love talking to each other about this, but we love to get to share this with you. So shout out to you, listener. 30 episodes up and 30 episodes down, and we're just excited. So let us get into it. And as you know, we always start with our disclaimers, our spoiler warnings, our things. First and foremost, please note this episode contains spoilers for the first and second books in the ACOTAR series. This is A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. Additionally, several potentially triggering, emotional, and or traumatic themes may be discussed, which could be impactful or upsetting. Note that adult content, language, and themes are used in the discussion of this book, so please take care of yourself and use caution if you're not in a space to engage with these conversations. It should also be noted that this podcast is hosted by two licensed mental health counselors, but it should not be used to diagnose, treat, or address any individual mental health concerns or conditions. The knowledge, opinions, and experiences that we express related to mental health are our own and should not be applied as treatment. This is just for fun. So if you feel like you need mental health treatment, please seek out your own individualized mental health care. And as always, our order of events, we have our rankings and ratings. We have our teehee moments. We have our character case, which is kind of new. And we pick a character and we ask if they were our client. We have the red flag court where we ask, is it a red or green flag? Which we absolutely love this. I feel like this is my new favorite, the red flag court.
It's so fun.
Our counselor's couch, where we take what we learn in the book out into the everyday world, and then what's up in the realm. What are we reading? What do we want to read? What do we got going on? And how can you get in touch with us? So that is what we have on the docket today. And that leads us first and foremost to our rankings and ratings. You want to kick it off, Carolyn?
Yeah, so we'll give a little intro to the story. So in A Court of Mist and Fury, we start with Feyre at Tamlin's Manor. Feyre, Tamlin, and Lucien are trying to heal from the traumas of Under the Mountain, but it doesn't go well. Tamlin's protectiveness turns to abuse, and Feyre is slowly whittling away. But on her wedding day, Rhysand hears her begging for help through the bond. I love this moment. And he calls in his 1 week per month kind of bargain with her. And over the course of the book, Feyre realizes that Tamlin's actions are abuse and that she thrives within the Night Court with Rhysand and his inner circle, as anyone would.
Yes.
Feyre decides to join Rhysand and friends in trying to thwart the king of Hybern in taking over Prythian and re-enslaving the humans below the wall. She faces several challenges, including the Weaver, the Bone Carver, and the Hewn Court, And through all it, she falls in love with Rhysand and discovers that they are mates. Rhys and Feyre seal their mate bond, and Feyre becomes the High Lady of the Night Court.
Because she's a baddie.
Yeah, and it's unheard of for there to be a High Lady, so that was like a big like thing in the book. And then at the end, a very end of the book, Feyre and friends try to use a magical object called the Book of Breathings to nullify the power of the cauldron, which is the weapon that Hybern intends to use to win his war. But it all goes horribly wrong because Tamlin worked with Hybern to set this trap in order to get Feyre back. In the process, Feyre's sisters, Elena and Nesta, are thrown into the cauldron and turned into High Fae, which is devastating to both of them. At the very end, she pretends that Rhys captured her, and she goes with Tamlin and Lucien back to the Spring Court in order to spy on them and destroy them from within.
Oh my God, so much. Even as you're talking about it, I'm getting chills. I am getting chills.
So that was a little intro to the story. You tell me, what were your star ratings, Chili Pepper, and shelf placement for this book?
Yes. Okay. 5 stars. 5 stars. If I could give it 6, if I could give it 7, I would.
Yeah.
This is like I feel like in the canon of Sarah J. Maas books, this is one of the most beloved books. And there's a good reason for that. So 5 hearty stars for this one. Chili Peppers, I gave it a 3. We do get more spice, and it wasn't like a spice book, that it was mostly a fantasy book with spice included, but definitely a jump from what we saw in the first
one.
And then my first shelf, top shelf, she's going right up at the top. Honestly, with most of Sarah J. Maas's books, I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I loved it the third time. Like you really have to hold a special place in my heart for me to read it multiple times. It's essentially like Sarah J. Maas books, Diana Gabaldon books. Like there are just a couple of series that I could just read over and over and over, and it was such a joy. How about you? What are your...
I gave it 5 stars, of course.
Yeah.
This is my second time reading it, and I loved it so much. It reminded me of like how much I love it. I did give it 4 chili peppers because I haven't really been reading anything spicy, and I love the little moments, which we'll go over in the teehee. I love like the little like flirty things. I felt like that really gave me something.
Oh yeah.
And I am putting this on my top shelf, like first shelf. So I love this one. Definitely much more than the first one, but
and not to mention, and I can't emphasize this enough in this episode, I finally get to say what I think about Tamlin. Like, oh my God, all of last episode, I was dying inside. I was like, and here's the thing. I've done this with multiple people. I've watched people read this series, and in the first book, when everyone's like, oh, Tamlin's kind of hot, I'm like, yeah, he's great.
I never thought he was hot. Never.
I never thought he was like the hottest man I'd ever, like, I wasn't like obsessed with him, but I didn't hate him at first. Like, I was like, okay, he like he's beastie kind of fae man. Like, okay, I could kind of get into it. But then through the end of ACOTAR, I started to be like, I don't know. The thing is, he seemed at the end of ACOTAR, and this is because I think a big chunk of Tamlin's crimes occur at the very through A Court of Mist and Fury and at the very end of it. So he doesn't to me turn villainous until the second book, really.
Yeah.
He's just not a great partner at the end of ACOTAR to me. Like his like sitting on the throne next to Amarantha and doing nothing. His whole bluster where he's like, I'll rip your head off. But he has no way to do that. Like he's running his mouth, and he has no meaningful way to make that happen. So like at the end of ACOTAR, he kind of was like, he's all right. He could have been redeemed for me if you like made him much cooler. But like, I was kind of meh about him, and I was very intrigued about Rhysand.
Yeah, I definitely love a darker character. Like the idea of a night court seems so much cooler and more attractive than a spring court. I love spring, not a man tied to spring, I think.
Yeah, I really felt lukewarm about Tamlin in the first book. It wasn't I'm okay with different like aesthetics. I could even like if you were like sort of like a man of the forest, almost like darker a little bit.
Yeah,
like
more grizzly.
Yeah, a little like not like so plucky spring court, but like he's of the forest or something. Like
I like that vibe.
I could get into that. But I just was like, yeah, Tamlin's all right at the end of book 1. Book 2, I want to like rip his eyes out. I'm like, you are like, you sold everybody out. Like, so note that we're talking, you know, last episode about Tamlin trying to keep it together. Meanwhile, I'm simmering inside because I know he sells Prithian out at the end of Court of Mist and Fury.
I totally forgot. So when I was reading it, I was like, no freaking way.
I'm so, oh my God. And him, like, just the abuse that he puts Feyre through up until she leaves and goes to the night court, how presumptuous he is, both him and even like when Lucian finds them in the woods and he's trying to like kind of grab onto her. Like, I'm just like, I don't like it. And so, but I had to, like, I was like, I can't go there. So it was very hard in our last episode to like give Tamlin the benefit of a doubt. When internally I was like, I know what happens to Tamlin, and he and
there was something about Lucian that I don't like either. It's just like, it's like, why are you so afraid of Tamlin? And it's like, why are you acting like a little bitch? Like, I don't know.
Here's the thing. I actually, and I'm not going to talk about kind of how I see Lucian's arc in future books. I only have these 2 books right now.
Yeah.
I don't hate Lucian.
Like, he's all right, but in moments like that of in the forest of like, oh my gosh, like you have to come, like, you know, Tamlin. It's like I don't know.
Well, and is he kind of subject to Tamlin's abuse too, right? Because true. Like, Tamlin takes Lucian away at points to have conversations with him, and like Lucian leaves those conversations really pale and upset sometimes. And so it's like, I almost see Lucian, and not that it excuses what Lucian does. Lucian is an actor in these books and in A Court of Mist and Fury.
Yeah.
But I think there's something that separates Lucian from Tamlin for me. And I don't know. So anyway, we are so relieved that now, dear listener, we get to say Tamlin sucks.
Down with Tamlin.
Oh my God. Yeah. Down with the sickness, as they say.
He sucks.
So
I saw it from the first book. I was just like, this is not the guy. I don't know how people kind of like fell in love with him and thought he was going to be the main MMC, but I'm just like, he had red flags from the beginning, girl. From the beginning.
Yeah. He definitely, it was the emotionality and the popping off that like,
I'm just like,
I was like, I don't love this. But I will say, the first time I read it, I wasn't a hater of Tamlin by the end of ACOTAR. I was lukewarm about him by the end of ACOTAR. And I think for me as a reader, Sarah J. Maas could have played it either way. She could have leaned into Rhysand, and I would have got it, and I did get into it, honestly. Or she could have given Tamlin some kind of arc and made him cooler. I could have gone either way the first time. Now reading ACOTAR, now reading the first ACOTAR book, I'm like, fuck this. I'm like, fuck you, guy. So anyway, that being said, you know what this means when we get into our teehee moments? We get to teehee.
And we have a lot this time.
Oh, girl. We have a lot. I highlighted 3 to like spare us from the full list, but I'll always add like 1 extra. So what did you have for teehee moments?
Oh my gosh. So this book obviously had lots of teehee moments. I did read yours, so you and I have some of the same, which I didn't put in my list because I know that you would go over them. So my first one is page 109. between Feyre and Rhysand, of course. She says, "Don't you have other things to deal with?" And he says, "Of course I do. I have so many things to deal with that sometimes I'm tempted to unleash my power across the world and wipe the board clean just to buy me some damn peace. But I'll always make time for you." I love the way he speaks.
There's two parts to this. One, you're so powerful, you could just like wipe out the world and you choose not to. Wow. Number two, you always have time for me. Like,
I know.
Okay.
Oh my God. It's like, you can't tell me these things.
Don't be nice to me like this.
don't. That was a good one. Page 239 from More. This one is a more inspirational one that I liked. So it's not romantic, but she says, "There are good days and hard days for me, even now. Don't let the hard days win." I thought that was really inspirational in the moment.
Oh yeah. You know? No, I've seen that. Like stylized quotes of this.
Oh really?
Like in memes and stuff. I think Moore's character is so powerful for looking at like how do you deal with trauma and like kind of find healing. I just love that.
So I think that really like almost spoke to my like therapist heart. I love that one. And then page 265. So this is when they're kind of sending the notes back and forth, which I love those conversations.
Yes.
So Rhys says this: "Life is better when you're around." So it's just like those little things that I'm just like, I love this man.
Well, and here's the thing, like he's not shy about saying it. Like he's not shy. Exactly. Now he does hide other things, big facts about mates and things, but he tells her how he feels about her pretty often. Frequently. Yeah, which I love it. Don't hold back. Don't hold back, folks. Life's too short.
Exactly. I love a confident man like that. Page 290. So the same, sending notes back and forth. Oh my God, I love this one. So she says to him, "Go lick your wounds and leave me be." And then he says, "I'd much rather you licked my wounds for me." She says, "Lick you where exactly?" And then he says, "Wherever you want to lick me, Feyre. I'd like to start with everywhere, but I can choose if necessary. I've been told I'm very, very good at licking." We might have to see. We might have to test it out.
Yeah, that's one we need for science.
To
see how that goes. Oh my God. You got to be confident to say that. Like
exactly. So, I love that. So then page 337, which is like kind of like a big quote from the series. "To the people who look at the stars and wish, Rhys. To the stars who listen and the dreams that are answered." Low-key, a good quote.
Yeah. Well, and they're the court of dreamers. And like, I like it because like you can be absolutely badass in dealing with shit and you could still be a dreamer. Like, I just love that so much.
Yes. I'm going to say two more and then, it's hard to choose. So page 469, Feyre says, "And if he had grabbed me," and then Rhys says, "Then I would have torn apart the world to get you back." Y'all know how I feel about someone who will end the world for me or do these type of things for me. You guys know.
Oh, yeah. I picture, because when like Rhys goes into like darkness cloud mode, I just oh my God, hell yeah, hell yeah.
And then this is my last one because we can't be here all day. So page 525. "And then I learned your name. Hearing you say it, it was like an answer to a question I'd been asking for 500 years. You've been thinking about me for 500 years.
Yeah. I have so many.
Oh my goodness, moments. I know.
I have a whole gaggle of them, but I highlighted 3. I'll keep it to 3. Probably, maybe. So and I tried to pick one from like across the book, like earlier on, midway through, and then toward the end. So on page 212, this is when I think she's going to go into the Weaver's cottage. So Rhysand is setting up this like gauntlet for her to find a magical object. It's a ring. secret. And he's helping her strap into a harness, which obviously he has to like get on his knees for her and help her strap it in. And so she says to him, because she has to seal this ring, she says, "So I'm your huntress and your thief." His hand slid down to cup the backs of my knees, and he said with a roguish grin, "You are my salvation, Feyre." Oh,
I can't.
My God. You are my salvation.
Oh my God.
Feyre. And then I swore I would do 3, but this is part of the same one kind of.
Yeah.
Because on 215, a little bit further down that conversation, it says, his words were a lethal caress as he said, "Did you enjoy the sight of me kneeling before you?"
I sure did.
I done did. Oh my God. I don't think you even have to ask that, Rhysand. I think you know the answer, my guy. Oh. And like the whole thing where his knees, right above his knees, are tattooed, and the tattoo means that he will kneel before nothing and no one except for his court and his lady. And it's like,
I'm telling you. Oh, there's no one like this man.
There's a So that was one. And I'm just gonna scroll past the other one, so I'm not even looking at them because I'll be like, wait. So on page 469, they started doing this thing where they exchanged thoughts. They'd be like, "Oh, what are you thinking? Or what are you thinking?" And so Feyre asks him, "What are you thinking?" And he says, "I'm thinking that I look at you and I feel like I'm dying. Like I can't breathe. I'm thinking that I want you so badly that I can't concentrate half the time I'm around you. And this room is too small for me to properly bed you, especially with the wings."
Oh my God.
Wow. Wowie. Okay.
And we love this scene, by the way. We love a one bed in the inn. Oh no.
You have to wrap your wings around me to keep me warm. And you might have to do some other stuff too.
Love.
Also, I just have chapter 55, Hiya, if you know, you know. Like, just all of chapter 55, the whole thing, even chapter 54, when he's going through his whole story, chapter 54 and 55, just that's a tee. That's not even a quote we're going to do. Like,
yeah, that whole chapter for me too, yeah.
But I wanted to highlight on page 533. This is after they've had the sex and they've solidified the mate bond and they've accepted that they are mates and they've come together. And this is from Feyre's perspective. She says, sort of in her own mind, "I felt and saw and smelled that bond between us until our scents merged, and I was his and he was mine, and we were the beginning and middle and end. We were a song that had been sung from the very first ember of light in the world."
Oh, I love that.
Your bond has been sung from the first light of the world. Wow. So honestly, and I'm saying these were just a smattering. You and I have like made a small selection. This kind of rhetoric, this kind of speak is interlaced through this whole thing, and it's just, I'm flying on the wings of that.
I just love their love. I just love how it's built, how it's spoken throughout the books. I guess that's why it's such a favorite for many people, because it's just like, wow, this is amazing.
Yep. So those are our teehee moments.
And now we get into our character case, which is one of our newer segments. So in the character case, we ask ourselves, what if these characters were our clients? We dive deep into their psychology, their motivations, and what kind of interventions, clinical, magical, and otherwise, we would use to help these characters. So I had Rhysand, and you will be doing Feyre. So for Rhysand, we're going to go over like two kind of like bigger I guess topics on his like character case. So the first one is the sexual abuse. You know, he did experience that under the mountain with Amarantha. So he was known as Amarantha's whore for the past 50 years. He experiences ongoing sexual abuse and assault by her, and kind of like that's his curse in a way. And he deals with that in order to protect the court of dreams and the people that he cares about. So, all while, you know, the majority of his magic was taken away by her, and during this time under the mountain. So, the smaller amount of magic he had, he was using it all the time to protect his like memories and make sure that he kind of keeps everything so she can't get through and see like all the other stuff he's protecting. So, you know, I think that was also in its own way kind of traumatic too, of always being like on guard and like keeping your kind of like walls up. So,
yeah. And I love the fact that Sarah J. Maas is so thoughtful about how she portrays not only like healing from trauma, but Rhysand as a man or male healing from sexual trauma.
yeah.
I think we often see depictions of women going through or experiencing, and many women do. Like it is prolific how many women experience, and men also experience higher rates than people anticipate of sexual violence. And so watching him try to contend with that trauma is, I think Sarah J. Maas does a really thoughtful job of like showing him coping with that and trying to heal through that, and noting that like men experience this as well.
Yeah. So you know, that's a big kind of like character arc in what we see with him going through. And then throughout the events that occur in the book, when Feyre kills Amarantha and is able to free Rhysand by doing so, at some point he tells his story and reasoning behind what his choices were and the traumatic position he was put in under the mountain. So I think even like sharing those like trauma experiences like are its own, you know, way of like healing, and also just like acknowledging like what he went through. So he does experience like flashbacks and nightmares that affect him throughout the book. And you know, as we see in like most trauma clients, like those are some of the symptoms that they can experience. So I thought that was a really big point to talk about for him. And then what we noticed, or at least what I noticed about Rhysand, is like he has this a protector, but it's a fair protector. It's not Tamlin. So I want to go over moments where he is a protector in a way, but also shows fairness and not like possessiveness. And then this almost like mask that he puts on with like the difference between like him being in the court of dreams and then in the court of nightmare. So it's almost like this mask that we can sometimes see even in the real world too, that people have to put on. So in page 42, when Feyre is about to get married to Tamlin and mentally thinks, help me, anyone save me, please get me out and end this. This scene is so interesting to connect with Rhys and his behavior with choosing this moment to save her and seeing how he does it. He puts on his badass like self or like mask when he comes into the spring court, and then when they return to the night court, he says, "You're not a prisoner, Feyre. You're my guest." So like, you know, in the conversations where she like assumes that she's going to be like a prisoner somewhere, but this is a moment that shows he has like a different like expectation or like way of treating someone. So I think those are little moments that you can see like how his character is so much different than Tamlin.
Yeah, I like that you highlight this because I think it's a conversation that Feyre and Rhysand have, and I actually have a red flag court example for this, but you see that Feyre is also trying to contend with like what are the differences between Rhys and Tamlin,
right?
And why is it that I feel okay with Rhys, who's also a Fey male, and like, you know, will do the protector thing, but what's different about them? And I think what's so telling is Rhysand telling his story in chapter 54, he says, like, I heard your panic through the bond and I was panicked for you, and I almost forgot my character when I showed up. Like, I just showed up because I felt how panicked you were, and I needed to help you because you were screaming for somebody to help you. And I think that Rhysand, in his explanation of his sort of why he does things, so much of the time it comes from understanding and wanting to be a support in how she feels. With Tamlin, it often feels like Tamlin feels so loudly his own shit that he can't see how Feyre's feeling or how he's making her feel, or he misperceives it. He doesn't seem to see that she's like wasting away, but I think it's because he's so in his own head. Rhysand is definitely has his moments in his own head, but he tracks how Feyre feels and is very sensitive to how she's feeling, and tries to be a support for her, and it's his attentiveness to her that I think helps him be a better partner.
Yeah, I totally agree, because it's just those are the things that are missing in Tamlin. It's like, he shows like some type of caring, but he's not really in tune with her, and he's not really like showing it in an appropriate way. So so I think that's something that even Feyre was like kind of noticing. And then page 74, he says, Tamlin isn't your keeper and you know it. And then she says, I'm his subject and he is my high lord. And then Rhys is like, you are no one's subject. I will say this once and only once. You can be a pawn, be someone's reward, and spend the rest of your immortal life bowing and scraping and pretending you're less than him, than Ianthe, than any of us. But I know you more than you realize, I think. And I don't believe for one damn minute that you're remotely fine with being a pretty trophy for someone who sat on his ass for nearly 50 years, then sat on his ass while you were shredded apart. So it's just, he has such a, almost like a respect to her that she does not have herself, or like understanding of like, no, you don't have to be this. You don't have to kind of bow down to him. So I think those speak so much to his character and kind of what he sees.
Yeah.
And then in page 320, he says he locked you up because he knew the bastard knew what a treasure you are, that you are worth more than land or gold or jewels. He knew and wanted to keep you all to himself. And then she's like, he does love me, Rhysand. And he says, the issue isn't whether he loved you, it's how much, too much love can be a poison. So I think he's totally speaking facts here about how love can turn toxic and possessive, and his insight on that difference, I feel like, again, like just shows a good way that his character, his relationship dynamics, like, are just so vastly different than Tamlin, and him just being a more fair partner.
And I think too, this idea of like, he calls it loving someone too much. I tend to think of it as loving to the point of control. Like, people mistake love and control. And I think when folks are not prepared to have a partner or not prepared to have a love relationship, they often morph it into controlling, and they think that's love. And so I like that Rhysand can differentiate like what is an appropriate amount of love, or an appropriate amount of oneself that you can sort of apply to a love relationship, and how much is out of your control when you have a partner who is their own actor and doing their own things. Now, I don't think, because I think Rhysand, he's still a High Lord. He's still a Fey male. Yeah. It's not that he doesn't struggle. Like, he has moments where he says, I want to ask you to stay behind, or I feel this desire to protect you, or I will shred apart anybody who
yeah.
And Feyre challenges him on it. And she's like, then you need to work that out. Like, she's like, then that's a you fucking problem.
Yeah.
And he takes that feedback. Like he doesn't shy away from it. So it's the thing is that it's not that the urge isn't there, but he checks himself. He's like, I cannot have a real partner and a high lady and treat her with kid gloves. Like I have to let you, not even let you. I have to be okay while you do you and become the fullest version of yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. And he listens to her and like kind of is able to respect what she wants. So I think that makes again like a big difference. These next three quotes that we're gonna kind of talk about have a more insight on like how he sees himself, which I think is important to note. So in page 336, um, he was jealous. He was jealous, Feyre said to Tarquin, that it would be easy to fall in love with him. Rhys said, I was jealous of that I'm not that sort of person for anyone. The summer court has always been neutral. They only showed backbone during those years under the mountain, and Tarquin and his neutral court. He will never have to worry about someone walking away because the threat against their life, their children's lives, will always be there. So yes, I was jealous of him because it will always be easy for him and he will never know what it's like to look up to the sky, the night sky, and wish. So I feel like even when I was reading this and even typing it in our thing, I felt emotional for him in that moment where it's like he felt like it's like not easy for someone to fall in love with him because he either has all these baggage or like he's has this persona. So I think it's a little sad the way that he kind of feels in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and he is his situation is complicated, and his situation is not without danger. Like he is not someone that you kind of love sort of with ease. There's too much at stake to be able to sort of just fall in love with him in sort of this natural way. And so I think, and Feyre talks about at one point being lonely. And I think both Rhys and Feyre in their own ways are lonely. And part of, I think what Rhys struggles with is how do I be the fullness of myself with all the complexities and not let myself be lonely? Like, how do I let folks into that? And I think about Sarah J. Maas in a interview at some point that I can't remember was asked, like, if Rhysand had a song, what would his song be? And it's Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, you know, the and I don't want the world to see me. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that song.
If you listen to that song, it very much is the angst of Rhys. Like he struggles with all the masks that he has to wear or he feels he has to wear. And so I thought this was such a nice moment of vulnerability for him where he was like, it won't be easy with me. And that's lonely because there's how many people want to go on that journey with me. And I think at this point in the story, he doesn't know if there's anybody who would. Now, you and I and everybody else know that Feyre's like, sign me up. But
exactly.
But I like that you highlight this quote.
Yeah. And in page 396, when Rhys and Feyre are planning to go to the Court of Nightmares, he says, what I have to be tomorrow, who I have to become, it's not something I want you to see. How I will treat you, treat others. So, that, and then she says, the mask of the High Lord. And then he says, because you've only started to look at me like I'm not a monster and I can't stomach the idea of anything you see tomorrow being beneath the mountain, putting you back into that place where I found you. So, I think here we see like, obviously, like it must be really difficult of being like totally two different type of people. Like in the Court of Dreams, you're kind of like normal, more respectful but still powerful. But in the Court of Nightmares, like you have to be like a horrible person. And with developing relationship with Feyre, I think it's like he doesn't want to scare her away type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's really difficult for him as like a person or character. And yeah. And then
I think so for me, this is the part where the way that Rhysand survived under the mountain is not necessarily like, I think he's trying to figure out if he has to survive that way now. And there's some part of this where he adopts masks, and I wonder if he even needs them anymore.
Right.
And so his whole thing of like, this person that I have to be, in this book, I always have the question of like, but do you have to? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and that's part of my treatment plan is like being able. No. It's because it's like a thought, obviously, that, obviously you would come to, but it's just like, you don't have to be this person anymore, and kind of like processing and exploring like, who is it that you want to be? So that's something I mentioned.
Okay. I'm sorry. I preempted it because I didn't look at your treatment plan, so I should have just like, okay, never mind.
We're on the same page. Clinically too.
Yes, clinically.
Yeah, so it's just it's that mask that he has to put on 2 different places, and it can affect a relationship that he's like starting to develop and he cares about. So and then my last one is in page 426. This is between Feyre and Moore. So Feyre says he is lucky to have all of you. And then Moore says, no, we are lucky to have him, Feyre. I have known many high lords, cruel ones, cunning ones, weak ones, powerful ones, but never one that dreamed, not as he does. And then Feyre says, dreams of what? Moore says, of peace, of freedom, of a world united, a world thriving, of something better for all of us. He thinks he'll be remembered as the villain in the story. Like, it's like this idea that he always expects that he is going to be the villain or the bad guy in the story. And, and later on it said that he banned wing clipping for women, and he trains female Illyrian soldiers. So it's like he has all these good qualities. He just doesn't see it in himself because of what he had to be, and the kind of the position he was put. So poor guy.
Well, and it's recognizing that part of the reason he struggles so much is because he dreams. Like, he could just be mega powerful and cruel. Like, he could be down to the bone exactly what everybody thinks he is in the hewn court or under the mountain or whatever.
Yeah.
But the great tension for Rhysand is who he actually is and who he feels like he has to pretend to be in order to protect the people he loves. And like I said, under the mountain, that may have very well been true. You may have had to pretend in a particular way. But I think it's grating on him more and more and more as you go through this book. And even the fact, like that quote you pointed out of like, you're just starting to look at me like I'm not a monster. Like, imagine putting yourself in Rhys's shoes and all people do is look at you like a monster. And then this girl who's like your mate and you love with the force of 1,000 moons. I was going to say suns, but this is the night court. With the force of 1,000 moons, he sees her face and sees her looking at him differently. Like, heartbreaking.
I know. And you said that beautifully. So my treatment plan for him would be like extensive trauma processing therapy for his traumatic and sexual abuse that he experienced under the mountain. And then kind of like how we mentioned, like working on his own idea of self and who he wants to be to others as well as himself, and being more true to who he wants to be, his being, and not needing to put like a false mask or an idea that he has to be a demented high lord, like the worst kind of thing there is that doesn't deserve goodness. Like, that's kind of like how I see it feels like right now, that he doesn't deserve some of those good things. So those are the things in my character case for him.
Oh my God. Well, like, hell yeah, girl. You like point for point. I feel like you clocked him.
Yeah.
And it's I think a special challenge to have a character case like Rhysand, because you're not hearing from him. Like, you're picking up these pieces from what he says. And I think the quotes you highlighted were so indicative of like this inner world coming out, the vulnerability coming out. So just golf clap, fancy clap.
Thank you.
That rocked. And now the pressure's on, because how do I follow that?
Girl, you got this.
Okay. So I had Feyre, and I had Feyre in the first book. So this was kind of cool because I feel like me and my girl Feyre, we've just been like
hanging.
vibing.
Yeah. You've been clinically seeing her for a bit, so
her and I have built some rapport.
Yeah.
We've now been in sessions for a hot minute. Clinical humor. What a couple of dorks.
Oh my god.
So I have you have, I have some themes that I want to highlight from what I see from her. Then I'll go into my treatment plan. And what I wanted to start with is kind of where she starts in the beginning of the story. Like, she experiences this really interesting mental health arc throughout the story. So I'm going to kind of start where she starts and track her development across the story. And so the first category, or the first sort of theme I have, is recognizing abuse, control, and the role of depressive symptomology. A major part of Feyre's arc in this story, in this book in particular, is related to her experiencing, recognizing, and eventually calling out Tamlin's abuse. And I highlight all three of those things because each of those is a task in and of itself. To even recognize that abuse is happening is such a challenge for so many folks. And I think this is also portrayed in her character. She doesn't start the book going, I think Tamlin is being abusive. Like, she very much at the start of the story aligns herself with the messaging that Tamlin's using, that Ianthe is using, which is also kind of perpetuating abuse, and that Lucien proliferates because Tamlin's telling him to proliferate it. Right. Not that it absolves him from guilt, but like, Ianthe, Lucien, and Tamlin are all kind of feeding her this stuff. And she's taking it in because that's all she has. So, and this starts early in the story. And on page 15, it says, Feyre says, "Now I could fight alongside them, against them. Not that I'd tried. I was too watched, too monitored and judged. Why should the bride of the High Lord learn to fight if peace had returned?" And this shows, like, she doesn't see herself as herself. She's like, I am the bride of the High Lord. I only exist sort of in adjacency to the High Lord. On page 17, she says, "If I were being blunt with myself, I'd admit that Ianthe had become a crutch, but she seemed willing to do it, caring when I couldn't bring myself to." And this, I think, highlights the ways that Ianthe sought to control Feyre. And I think because Feyre's experiencing depression, she kind of just melts into it. She couldn't bring herself to fight or care. And then page 27, she says, "He didn't have any trouble letting me hunt and wander on my own when I was a mere human, when the borders were far less safe." And then Lucien says, or it's either Ianthe or Lucien, "He didn't care for you the way he does now. And after what happened under the mountain, he's terrified of seeing you in enemies' hands." And I think this is the kind of like wording that's used to get Feyre to stay docile. And she falls for it. And her response to a lot of these abuses in this messaging is very physical and emotional in nature. She throws up every night from nightmares and she can't sleep. She struggles to eat. And then, like, during the day, she'll sleep a lot. All of this is depressive symptomology. Yeah. It's like, item for item, like, oh, that's depression. She doesn't find joy in the things she used to love, like painting. And she struggles, has periods of where she struggles with access to emotions and even suicidality. You can see this on page 13. She says, "I'd only set foot in that room, my old painting studio, once when I first returned. All those paintings, all the supplies, all that blank canvas waiting for me to pour out stories and feelings and dreams. I'd hated it." And then she talks about how loose her clothing is. She talks about how she feels nothing at all, that even in moments where she really should be scared, she doesn't feel it. And then as she progresses through the story with the help of Reese in the inner circle, she starts to figure out how toxic that messaging is. And she recognizes Tamlin's abuse for what it is. And this really helps her to call it out and combat some of those depressive symptoms. So I have a couple of quotes here that really highlight this. And they're a little bit longer, but I think they really are indicative of this. On page 121, she says, that girl who needed to be protected, who had craved stability and comfort, she had died under the mountain. I had died, and there had been no one to protect me from those horrors before my neck snapped. So I had done it myself, and I would not, could not yield the part of me that had awoken and transformed under the mountain. Tamlin had gotten his powers back, had become whole again, become the protector and provider he wished to be. I was not the human girl who needed coddling and pampering, who wanted luxury and easiness. I didn't know how to go back to craving those things, to be docile. And then on 156, she says, I'm thinking, and she's saying this to Rhysand because it's that "what are you thinking" game. And she says, I'm thinking that I must have been a fool in love to allow myself to be shown so little of the Spring Court. I'm thinking there's a great deal of that territory that I was never allowed to see or hear about, and maybe I would have lived in ignorance forever like some pet. I'm thinking that I was lonely, a lonely, hopeless person, and I might have fallen in love with the first thing that showed me a hint of kindness and safety. And I'm thinking maybe he knew that. Maybe not actively, but maybe he wanted to be that person for someone, and maybe that had worked for who I was before. Maybe it doesn't work for who I am now.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Just that recognizing of like who you're not and what you don't want is so powerful, I think. And even acknowledging like, yeah, he was safe and, you know, he was there for you when you needed that stability and like that kindness, like anyone who had maybe been through a really hard time and then you're shown something totally different. Of course you can fall for that, but that doesn't mean that that's the best option or that it's healthy.
Yes. And Feyre says at one point, like, under the mountain, I think Tamlin stopped trying. Like, we both were trying to figure it out, but he stopped trying to grow and learn and like figure his shit out. And I couldn't stop. So I love that there's a recognition within her of like, oh, yeah, this is not something I have to be a part of or that I have to fall for. So that's sort of like the first part, even just recognizing it. But what's so challenging about healing from abuse and like domestic violence situations is that when you recognize it and you go sort of to, let's say, a new living situation like Feyre did, she's living in the Night Court, you are left with, okay, what is my identity now? What are my goals now? What does my community look like now? And I think once that harmful, toxic messaging gets untangled for Feyre, she starts to consider, who is it that she actually is? Like, who am I really? And who do I want to be? And she spends a big chunk of this book not really knowing. And in fact, she starts really harsh with herself. On page 1 of this book, she says, maybe I'd always been broken and dark inside. Maybe someone who'd been born whole and good would have put down the ash dagger. And she's talking about when she had to, well, didn't have to, but was sort of, her hand was sort of pushed into killing these two Fae to save everyone else. I was the butcher of innocence and the savior of the land. A murderer, butcher, monster, liar, deceiver. I didn't know who I meant. The lines between me and Amarantha had long since blurred. Yeah. And then she says on page 7, I wish my human heart had changed with the rest of me, made into a mortal marble instead of the shredded pit of blackness it now was, leaking its ichor into me. So this is the self that she starts with. She believes that.
Yeah.
Like, why?
And I feel like, throughout the book a little bit too, she does still feel like the guilt of just like killing those fairies. And that's, again, like a big image on like how she sees herself, and that guilt takes a long time to, recognize that you were put in that position. And like, that is what you were kind of made to do that. Yes. In that moment.
And you are a complex person. You can be a person who murdered and also not not be a bad person. Like
right.
that you are not
in this situation, in this fairy realm.
Well, I mean, think about real life, right? Like imagine if you kill someone in self-defense. Imagine if you like
True.
There are things that can happen. Now, I'm not saying like there is murder that's committed that's wrong, just outright. But I think the reason that I like that Feyre actually has these murders on her hands because it makes her a crunchy character. Like it's not like she can look back on the mountain and say, I made no choices, I did nothing wrong, everything bad was done to me. Like she murdered people. Now, again, the circumstances, I think we could create a lot of empathy for the circumstances, but like at the end of the day, you did murder 2 people. And so having her contend with that, figure out how to live with that, it is, if we sort of take it out of that level of intensity, like if you like interpersonally something happens and you do something, you call someone a name or you speak in a way you don't mean to, like those are actions that you took and maybe you should regret them, but also you are a full formed human, and like how do we help you contend with maybe a mistake you made and find ways to live with yourself and do better. So I like that she's got this like this crunchiness, but I think in order for her to be fair to herself and to see all the facets of her, she can't just think of herself in that way. There's so much more to her. We already know there's so much more to her, but I think she realizes it as the book goes on. On page 217, she says, I was not prey any longer. I decided as I eased up to that door, and this was in the Weaver's cottage. I was not a mouse. I was a wolf. Oh, girl.
Okay. Confidence.
Yes. On page 225, she says, I had survived the worm, survived Amarantha, and I had been granted gifts, considerable gifts, like strength. I was strong. I was not a pet, not a doll, not an animal. I was a survivor, and I was strong. I would not be weak or helpless again. I could not be broken, tamed.
Love that.
Oh, chills reading it right now.
Yeah.
She keeps going with this theme. And she, on page 319, she says, no one is my master. On page 324, she says, I might always be a little vicious or restless. I might crave peace, but never a cage of comfort. That statement, I was like, she is incorporating the fullness of her identity because she's finally recognizing, like, girl, you don't just want to sit and paint, which we knew. Like,
you can go and paint when it's on your terms, and it's not the only thing that you're gonna do. Like, if you want to be involved in other things, you could be, not something that you're just like, here, paint and like have a distraction.
You can be vicious and a painter. Like those things can exist in the same person. And then on 410, she even talks about being beautiful. She says, I waited for the blush, the shyness to creep in, but I was beautiful. I was strong. I had survived, triumphed. Girl, be all of it. Be beautiful and be vicious and be restless and be a painter. Like,
the fierceness of being a woman.
Oh my God, love it. I'm getting so fired up right now. And I think by the end of the book, she's able to see her evolution away from who she was at the top of ACOTAR and who she is in the present. She takes ownership of power sort of as her own, instead of being like, I'm some sort of amalgamation of all these other people's powers and it's their power. On 450, she says, the power did not belong to the High Lords, not any longer. It belonged to me, as I belonged only to me, as my future was mine to decide to forge. Once I discovered and mastered what others had given me, I would weave them together into something new, something of every court and of none of them. And I'm like, hell yes, girl. And then on 488, she says, I wonder, and this is about she's talking about Rhysand, but she's also talking about herself. She says, I wonder if some part of me knew what was waiting for me, that I would never be a gentle grower of things or someone who burned like fire, but that I would be quiet and enduring and as faceted as the night, that I would have beauty for those who know where to look. And if people didn't bother to look, but only to fear it, then I didn't particularly care for them anyway. I wonder if, even my despair and hopelessness, I was never truly alone. I wonder if I was looking for this place, looking for you all.
Oh my god. I love that she feels so at home with like the crew in the night court. Yeah.
Yeah. So this leads us to the last sort of part of her evolution, which is purpose, feeling, and creativity. Because she's recognizing that her old dreams and desires don't fit her anymore, there's an opening for her to figure out who it is she wants to be. And by this time, sort of in her evolution, she's like, I am strong. I'm badass. I can do things and be beautiful. And that doesn't mean she has a concrete view of what she wants to do with it all. Like, yes, you could be strong and beautiful, but like, how do you want to do that? And like, what do you want to do? And she admits in a lot of places that she doesn't totally know what she wants, but I think she arrives at the end at something that feels meaningful. One, I think she reclaims her love for painting and seeing in colors. She admits, like, I wanted to paint. I could feel it kind of in my bones. Even the desire to be pretty. And I think she recognizes the depth of her feelings. Like, she's moving away from that depressiveness toward actually feeling the feelings. So on page 323, she's talking about watching Reese and Cressida flirt at the summer court. They went into the summer court to go get the Book of Breathings, and Feyre's flirting with Tarquin, and Cressida's flirting with Reese, and he's flirting back, and so there's some tension between Reese and Feyre. And she says he deserved it as much as Cressida, even if for a moment I wanted it. I wanted to feel like that again. And I was lonely. I had been lonely, I realized, for a very, very long time. I was unhappy, not just broken, but unhappy. An emotion, I realized. It was an emotion rather than that unending emptiness or survival-driven terror.
Wow. Yeah. I think it's just so impactful to even read that, because those are some of the journeys that people go through when they go to therapy. They recognize those things, that it's like, no, like, your situation is not a forever feeling. You're not going to always be unhappy. It's just a feeling that you're feeling right now due to certain circumstances. But yeah, even when you were reading, I was like, wow, like, that's crazy, because, you know, we see those, you know, breakthroughs with clients too.
Yes. And there's a recognition that you can't just not feel. Like, it will out. Like, you will feel it. It's just a matter of like, how much do you want to push it away before you just kind of let yourself feel it? And I think that admission of like, I do feel lonely, I am kind of unhappy, and that's okay, is so powerful. And then lastly, on page 512, at the like pinnacle, she's about to let like Reese back into the cabin, and they're about to like just come together. And it's gonna be so sexy. But she's having sort of a moment with herself to figure out what it is she wants. And on page 512, and I had never paid attention to this because like this is the lead up to chapter 54 and 55, so I was like I'm like, get to the part. But I was like, stick with Feyre here for a minute and her thoughts. She creates a picture of herself. For the first time, she has a concrete vision of what she wants her future to look like. And it's this, I thought, excellent end cap to an arc that had been happening for hundreds of pages. She says, I saw myself there, running through the meadow that slumbered beneath the thin crust of snow, splashing through the little streams. And then I would go home to Valaris, where I would finally walk through the artist's quarter and enter those shops and galleries and learn what they knew. And maybe one day I would open my own shop, not to sell my work, but to teach others. Maybe teach the others who were like me, broken in places and trying to fight it, trying to learn who they were around the dark and the pain. And I would go home at the end of every day, exhausted but content, fulfilled, happy. I'd go home every day to the townhouse, to my friends, chock full of stories of their own days, and we'd sit around that table and eat together. And resand, he would be there. And there it was, a future, the future I saw for myself, bright as the sunrise over the Sidra, a direction and a goal and an invitation to see what else immortality might offer me. It did not seem so listless, so empty anymore, and I would fight until my last breath to attain it, to defend it.
Oh my God. That was so beautiful. I remember reading that and I was just like, wow. Oh, she has hope.
Yes.
She has, like, that's the big thing that a lot of people don't have sometimes.
Yes. And she has a concrete vision. She says, I want to be in the artist quarter. I want to help people. I want to be with my mate, and I want to be with my friends, and I want to live here. Like, oh, the like solution focused part of me is like, you have concrete goals. Yay.
Yeah.
So all of that said, here is my treatment plan for young Feyre. So I'm imagining all this arc has occurred, and she comes into my office, and we've been working together for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And she's like, Katie, so like I have these dreams now, and like we're here. And the first one I have is around creativity and purpose. Creativity has been such a part of her journey throughout this whole thing. She finally respects it. Like she finally respects that part of herself and those dreams. So I would harness that awareness and the vision that Feyre had built in that quote by the end of Akamath. And I would help her construct that dream. This is where we would do like some like SMART goals. Like, what are some attainable, reachable, fair goals that we could create around making sure that you get that creativity and that meaning in your life? Then, and this one, I would have to like see how Feyre felt about it, because we always want to go with what the client, what's going to their process and what they think is most healing.
Yeah.
But I'd really want to process this idea of brokenness and do some self-awareness around self-talk. She spends a good amount of time in ACOTAR and Akamath being really harsh with herself. Her self-talk shifts by the end, but those patterns do not go away overnight. Just because you have that you know, spark of realization one time, it doesn't mean that harsh self-talk goes away forever. Yeah. So I would really want to be thoughtful of, okay, if this harsh self-talk reemerges, what do we want to do about it? And how do we want to process it or work through that? And I'd even like to look at her use of the word broken to describe herself. For some people, that can be a really powerful way to describe their experience, to be like, yeah, I am broken, and like not in a permanent, terrible way, but like in a way that means something to me. But also, I find some discomfort in being considered broken. Like, to me, vases are broken. Objects get broken. People experience really hard things, and they do the best they can with the cards that they are dealt. Yeah. And to me, that doesn't speak of brokenness. That speaks of like survivorship and meaning. And so I'd want to just look at that with her.
Yeah, because I think broken has a negative connotation towards it, and almost like some type of label that either someone put on you or society or just like yourself, but it's not an empowering one.
Well, and when someone says something is broken, like I am broken, there's sort of a permanence about that.
Yeah.
Like, you are broken, and that's just how you are forever. And that's not true either. Like, you can experience huge amounts of trauma and grow and learn and create the kind of life for yourself that you want. Like, there's room for change and growth and movement. And so I would want to see kind of how she processes the word broken and her brokenness. And if she really felt like it was important to identify with that, I would support her. But I would challenge the idea that you would have to identify sort of as a broken person, or you are broken, because nobody, like, you're not broken. You're in my mind, you're a person who's gone through a lot, and you're doing the best you can with the tools that you have. And I don't know what the word we want to apply for that is, but like some people say survivor, it's not about acknowledging it or ignoring that anything happened, but it's just saying like, I don't stagnate. I don't have to stagnate just because something happened to me.
Yeah. And I wonder too, if like in the challenging part of like, if your friend were to express that she is broken, what would Feyre's reaction would be to someone who's saying that about themselves? So I think sometimes that's like, that can help them have the insight of like, well, you know, I would try to help my friend recognize that they're not broken. Okay. So then that's a big shift of, yeah, you know, you don't have to define yourself as broken.
No, you don't have to. And again, as I mentioned, you can if that feels empowering to you in some way. And I've seen it more often used in like a harmful way. So I'd want to check it. And then the last thing I'd really want to be looking at is those depressive symptoms. That's very grounded in like the mental health, physical part of her development. And I'd want her to gain awareness and sort of do a little psychoed, like that is what this is. Like these are depressive symptoms, like doing some building awareness around when those reemerge, or not that they're necessarily, it's a matter of when, if or when they reemerge. How can we approach them in a way that we're being compassionate with ourselves and we're being helpful to our nervous system, to our emotional world. Because so much of her depressive symptomology has to do with like base needs stuff like sleeping, eating. And if you stop sleeping and stop eating, it's going to really impact your mental health in other arenas. It's going to exacerbate some of the other stuff. So even when we're feeling depressed, can we still manage to like have a couple meals a day? Or even though we're depressed, can we work on sort of creating some good sleep hygiene? So that would be my last element for Feyre, end of A Court of Mist and Fury.
Ooh,
she's been on a journey, girl.
I know. And with your help, she got there.
me and you, we got Rhysand and Feyre. Okay, everyone, don't worry. We will see them in session and they'll tell us all about it. But it might be a good time, I feel, for a little break. And when we come back, we will get into the red flag court. Yes. So we'll see you all in a minute.
All right.
Bye.
All right, we are back, and now it is time for the red flag court. So, welcome to the red flag court, where we bring cases of personal and relationship misconduct to the jury, and we ask ourselves, is it a red flag, green flag, a somewhere in between? So, I will kind of do my first case. I only came up with one. But I submit to the court. In this first case, immediately after Feyre comes back from the night court, after the wedding was interrupted, and she was kind of have to spend a week over there, Tamlin, being the very concerned male he is, immediately wanted to question her. And then Feyre mentioned in the book, I took in the shredded walls, the scuffed and chipped furniture. What nightmares has he suffered, waking and sleep while I was away? So, what can we decipher from this image being portrayed? And how can this feel like walking into a scene like this?
Okay. So, this one's hard for, okay. Because I know that everyone's going to be like, red flag, red flag. And there are red flag elements to this. But think for a moment about what Tamlin thinks the night court is. Think about what Rhysand has told everyone that the night court is. He, by his own admission, has told everyone else in the land that the night court is a place of sin and depravity and terrible torture and screaming. and your betrothed, your fiance, gets plucked up out of her wedding and brought to that place for a week. And you have no idea what's going on with the depraved Night Court High Lord and his fucked up court.
That's
and
true.
then you get brought back.
I'm
just saying, here's the thing. I don't blame Tamlin for worrying. I don't blame Tamlin for being concerned about that. Also, Tamlin is a High Lord who is tasked with protecting his own court. And so when Feyre comes back, the urge to be like, well, what happened? Tell me everything that happened. We have to protect you. We have to protect the court. Like, he is frantic because he doesn't know what that week has contained. He doesn't know, like, did Rhysand break into Feyre's mind and take all her knowledge of the Spring Court, and now he's going to use it? Like, Rhys is the one who came up into the Spring Court and scared the shit out of everybody.
That's true.
So, I don't blame Tamlin for wanting to know what all went down. I don't blame Tamlin for being scared or worried. What I don't like, one, is that while she was gone, he tore up his house.
Yeah.
Now, you could be worried, you could be scared, you could be mad, you can be upset. Emotions are welcome as far as I'm concerned. What you can't do is destroy your house and scare everybody in the process.
Yeah.
That's what you can't do. So, to me, the destroying of the house is the red flag. Also, I struggle mightily with the idea that you would be concerned first for what knowledge you can sort of mine out of Feyre before thinking about her well-being. I don't like that.
Yeah, because that's what he wants to question her about. Oh, we've never seen like fully what those like areas of the of his court can look like and all of that. So like that was his main concern. That's why I was like, no.
And if we think about it, like I can see why he would think protect the court first. Then I'll handle, but that's not sexy in romantasy terms.
Yeah, no.
As a partner, I want you to be thinking about me first, and we'll deal with the court stuff. But I think Tamlin is more concerned about the court than he is Feyre. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong, because here's the thing. You have this responsibility to all these people over here, and I get you wanting to handle that. So that's really hard for me. So if I had to apply a color flag to this, it would be ranging somewhere yellow to orange for me. I don't think it's totally red, but I can't say it's green because you wrecked your house.
Yeah.
And I just want you to hug your lady and like be like, girl, what do you need? And are you okay? Before you launch into the whole thing.
So, I agree. Now that you pointed out those kind of like differences, I do see how the worry and like, you know, I do think I don't like his wanting to question about like what the other court is more about versus like how it went like the past week for her. I don't like that. Don't like the breaking of the things. I understand he's a beast, you know, but still.
Well, but take your beast self out to the woods and
go run.
Run.
Do things.
Go running, lift beast weights, like do something. I'm not even gonna say go to the woods and destroy something, because I still don't like that your reaction is to destroy things. Like
exactly. That is
go for
the
a
red
run.
flag behavior.
Trot the perimeter until you run off whatever emotions you've got going. Like do whatever you need to do. I think the reddest part of the red flag is the destroying the house.
Yes.
And then the other stuff hovers in orange to yellow for me, because Rhysand was so determined to make everybody hate the Night Court. And then we're all like, oh, how dare you hate the Night Court? It's like,
I know.
What else are they going to do, bro?
Yeah, we get a different peek into, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
so
the red court has spoken.
The red flag court has deemed it so. And now I found 3. So I'm gonna introduce you to all 3, and then you need to tell me red flag or not, or green or orange or yellow or purple. I don't know. Whatever color. So at the very top of the book, Tamlin, Lucien, and Feyre are all reeling from what they experienced under the mountain. And they spend a good chunk of the start of the book trying to handle it in various ways. Feyre's throwing up in the middle of the night. Tamlin's destroying his house. Lucien, like, I feel for Lucien a lot. Like, Lucian's trying to navigate the best he can and like be helpful, but he's fucking it up. And one of the things they establish by unspoken agreement is to not discuss what happened to them. On page 8, it says, "It had become our unspoken agreement not to let Amarantha win by acknowledging that she still tormented us in our dreams and waking hours. It was easier to not have to explain anyway, to not have to tell him that though I'd freed him and his people and all of Prythian from Amarantha, I'd broken myself apart. So, I submit to the court. What do you think about this way of trying to cope with trauma? Is this a red flag or a green flag?"
You know, I don't think it's a healthy way to cope with your trauma, especially if you experience this with multiple people. I think there could be a deeper way of connection and community and processing all together, and awareness of like, no, we don't have to suffer in silence. We don't have to go through this alone, because we all experience a different kind of like portion of this and a different way of the trauma affecting us. But also, like, people can have their own way of processing it or coping with it. You know, maybe some people would prefer to not share with like others and maybe do it in a different environment with just like a mystical therapist, for example.
The therapist of the realm.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if like maybe that can be, because it depends on the person, you know. I think this could be an example of like maybe a group therapy. Like sometimes some people don't feel comfortable with that, but it also is healing, and maybe it takes some work to get to that point. So I think you know, they could do maybe more individual work and then go into expressing their experience together as a group. Maybe that could be more healing for them.
Yeah,
I'm going to say yellow flag for this one, because it is not necessarily red. I just don't think they're kind of at the place to really talk about it all together.
Yeah, I leaned, now that you're talking about this, you're changing my mind, because I was like, red flag. I was like, because the thing is, and it's, I think of like both Tamlin and Feyre in the first part of the book that are taken out of sleep from their nightmares. Nobody helps. Nobody talks about it. Nobody. So like it felt like a red flag to me, because I know as a clinician, we know as clinicians that you can't just never talk about something or never express it. And what I like what you highlight is that maybe this leans more yellow flag because they just don't know better. It's like they can't really do better if they don't know better. And I want to leave room for that. So I will say orange flag. I will cut the difference and identify an orange flag on the play for this one.
Yeah, because I do agree. I think them not helping each other as partners in the middle of the night when you're very distraught, I don't think I would be okay with that if that were to happen in my life. Like, of course, I would want to know, like, what's wrong? Like, yeah. Yes. I don't think that's a good, like, reaction on both of their parts to just ignore what the other person is going through.
Yes. Yeah. But if that's how you all think you're going to get over it, like if you've all just determined that, okay, the only way to move forward is to not think about it. I do like later in the book, I think Rhys and Feyre, it's kind of like a dichotomy, because he wakes her up from a nightmare at one point.
Yeah.
And then she goes to him and wakes him up from a nightmare at one point, and he's got the swirling darkness around him, and like it's very it creates a connection between them.
Yeah, because it's very different than what she was having with Tamlin. So Orange flag for this one.
Yes, the court has spoken. We're going for a yellow-orange sort of mix on the flag play.
Yes.
Sports. I don't know much about sports, but that's what I hear. So next one, there's a little bit of an explanation that leads up to the moment in which I want to analyze here.
Okay.
Rhys, Feyre, Cassian, Azriel, and more have to go to the Court of Nightmares to steal what is called the Veritas Orb. They have to do this because they have to show the mortal queens something good in their court to prove that what they're working for is not dark and evil. And what the crew decides is that they will show the queens Valaris so that the queens will agree to give them the second half of this magical object called the Book of Breathings. They need both halves of the Book of Breathings so that they can nullify the cauldron with high burn. That's a whole lot of information to let you know why they're in the Court of Nightmares. That's why they're there. While there, Rhys pretends to be the Wicked High Lord. He's got his mask on, and Feyre plays the part of his little like plaything, his whore. And I use that word because that's the word that they use.
Yeah.
I am not here to slut shame. I'm also not here, like in the case of Rhys and Amarantha, I'm not here to call somebody a whore who's experiencing sexual violence. That's not okay.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. Feyre 100% signs up for Under the Mountain this moment right here. He's like, he doesn't want her to go. And she's like, no, I'm going. I want to be helpful. And the moment they have on the throne, she's like writhing on his lap and they're
oh my God, that was hot.
Hot. It was I was that's one of the hottest scenes to me.
Yes.
Maybe of the series. After this whole scenario and in the midst of that, Keir, who is the sort of overlord of the hewn city, the under the mountain part of Rhys's court, he calls Feyre a whore, and Rhys does not like this because he was called a whore. So afterward, Rhys winnows Feyre and himself to the Moon Palace. The Moon Palace sits atop the mountain where the hewn city is. The hewn city is underneath it. And he's feeling really bad about the part that Feyre had to play when Keir called her a whore. And Feyre asserts, I made my own decisions. I didn't want you to leave me behind. I don't want you to leave me behind. And in turn, Rhys says that he's going to protect her like he would anybody in his court, but she needs to stop comparing him to Tamlin. And on page 422, the following dialogue unfolds. Feyre says, what about my story? What about my reward? What about what I want? And then Rhys says, what is it that you want, Feyre? I had no answer. I didn't know. Not anymore. What is it you want, Feyre? He says again. I stayed silent. His laugh was bitter, soft. I thought so. Perhaps you should take some time to figure that out one of these days. And then Feyre responds, perhaps I don't know what I want, but at least I don't hide what I am behind a mask, I seethed. At least I let them see who I am, broken bits and all. Yes, it's to save your people. But what about the other masks, Rhys? What about letting your friends see your real face? But maybe it's easier not to. Because what if you did let someone in? And what if they saw everything and still walked away? Who could blame them? Who would want to bother with that sort of mess? I submit to the court what kind of flags we see in here in this interaction between Rhys and Feyre.
You know, I don't like the position that Feyre's kind of putting him in because she's kind of bringing up these things that he's still trying to figure out and like work through. And she's bringing it up in a way of anger. And I don't really like that. Like, don't push him into a corner. And then also say like, why would someone bother with this sort of mess? Like, that also comes back a little later, that he brings it up that she called him like a mess or whatever. But I don't really like her in this moment right now. So I do think, I want to give her a red flag. I want to give her a red flag right now. And, he's kind of being a greenish flag. Like, I don't see he's doing really anything like wrong. Yeah, I just think he's going through like a tough moment, trying to figure out like who he wants to be, how he wants to show himself in like this new transition of like not having to be like Amarantha's whore and all of that. So I think she should have a little bit more empathy for that. She's not really seeing that. So I don't really have any like bad thoughts for Reese in this moment.
See, I think both of them are a little bit red flaggy here. And this is my take, take it with a grain, but yeah. I agree with you. I think Feyre's trying to make a point here about like, yeah, what if you actually let them see you for who you are and quit hiding behind a mask that you don't need anymore? And I think she has a point.
But like, how long has it been? How do we what's the time frame between
but I think that's where the red flag part of this enters in. I think her frustration is real with him putting up these boundaries between himself and who's supposed to be his family. Like, she's frustrated because she's seen the real side of him and he doesn't show anybody who really cares about him. And that's not fair. They're showing him their messiness and he's sort of, he's maintaining these masks. And I think it's fair of Feyre to say, not in this way, but to say, like, hey, like, maybe I'm broken and I'm messy and I don't know what I want, but I'm being honest. Like, you're not being honest with the people that you love. And you could say it in that way. Like, you didn't have to. I think the problem for me is the way she says this.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then she's insulting him in that moment. So of course it's not going to be good.
I also think he's insulting her. He's like, well, what the fuck do you want? You don't even know what you want, but maybe figure it out one of these days. And she hasn't gotten, how much time has she had? Nobody's had very much time. Like, if you look at the arc of her psychology through this book, like, think about having to totally shift your view of yourself, of your life, who you are. Like, she was turned into a fae, like, a month ago, or 2 months ago.
Okay. Like, can I present also that Reese was pretty much a sex slave in a way for the past 50 years and wasn't able to be free? But this is what's funny is because we're protecting our client in our like in the case that we present, like,
that's
in our character, because that's why I'm like, we're both feeling very strongly about our own characters that we presented. So I think that's so funny.
Yes.
But we're showing with empathy of like their experience. That's the thing.
Yes. And I think that's it. The thing is, neither of their sentiments to me are bad. It's the way they communicate it.
Yeah.
Like, Reese saying, like, because he's basically been trying to feel out what she wants this whole time. It's very clear to us as readers what Rhysand wants. Like, he's into her. He's trying to like reach out to her, be there for her. And as the story goes on, Feyre does that more and more. But she starts this story pretty depressed and like really not able to show up for him the way he shows up for her. And so I think it's fair of him to be like, Feyre, what do you want? Like, I'm here trying to like, I don't know, keep you out of a depressive state. And like, I put up with the like blank stares and the whatever. And like, what do you want? I think it's fair to be frustrated. And on Feyre's part, Rhys comes to the Moon Palace and is like, I will fucking destroy anybody who looks at you the wrong way. And I'm like, that sounds like Tamlin. Like, that sounds a little Tamlin-esque. But also, Rhys says, don't compare me to him. I'm not like him. And he's not. Like, there's an interplay back and forth where I think good points exist within what they're saying, but they both communicate it kind of in a shitty way because they're both stressed out and like trying to figure themselves out. So that's the reason why, to me, both of them get a red flag on this. Not because I think the sentiment is bad. I think it's fair of Reese to go, what do you want, Feyre?
Yeah.
And I think it's fair of Feyre to say to Reese, like, you're just putting up masks with everyone. Like, you're calling me out for not knowing what I want, but at least I'm being honest.
Yeah.
All of that is fair, but it doesn't mean you get to come at each other like this. This is playing dirty to me interpersonally.
Do we give it a red flag or a yellow? Because this is just maybe more of a way of communicating type of issue versus like red flag behavior.
I think I would go orange. I know to me it's starting to be green, yellow, orange, red.
I agree. Yeah.
I think this hits orange a little bit. I could get pulled back from red, but I think both of them need to find a way to communicate their frustration that doesn't involve insulting each other.
Yeah.
And like they do figure it out. After this, they Reese avoids her for a few days, which also
that's
true. She tries to reach out. They both then do more red flag behavior where he disappears for 2 days. She kind of eats crow and she's like, I fucked up. She tries to reach out to him. He won't respond. So her last message to him was like, don't be a fucking coward. And she sends it off.
Yeah.
Like, they get a little toxic before they get better. But
he said he needed time. He needed some space.
And that's fair as long as you tell someone.
That's
he
true.
Didn't say anything. He said, let's go back to the House of Wind. And then he fucks off. And it's like, neither one of them to me are green flags in this interpersonal interchange.
Yeah.
But I think what is green flag is when they come back together and explain to each other like, hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
We both said things we didn't mean. Reese says, I stayed away because I was scared that you were going to reject me. She says, I'm sorry I called you a coward. Like, they figure it out, but they do a whole lot of yellow, orange, red flag stuff between then and now. So the court has spoken.
Orange flag.
Orange flag because the sentiment's not that bad. The way you did it, kind of shiesty. And that is official legal terminology, shiesty. So my last one is having to do with the fact that Feyre finds out from the serial that she and Reese are mates. And that to me, like, you not sharing that you're mates, there's a whole thing there. We're not gonna get into that because I think that's a debate people have all the time. And I think in some ways it's like overdone. Although I think we could also get into that. But after this, she goes to a remote cabin where the inner circle, like, they go hang out in this remote cabin sometimes. And she goes there. She tells Moore, take me there. I need to sort out my life and my priorities. And tell Reese that I'm fine, that I need space. I'll be in the cabin. And after a few days, Reese finds her because he's like, I ain't taking that for an answer. And he goes and he flies through the lands and he eventually finds her. And they have a very emotional, vulnerable conversation. And Feyre accepts the mate bond. Yay!
Yay!
And then, woohoo!
I love the way that it was presented of like, cooking and like giving food to your mate is like,
oh yeah,
because I think even in real life, like, that's a way to show love for your family and your partner. So I love that little like sentiment.
Yes, I agree. Like the provision of food as like a sealing of the mate bond. And so she gives him some like canned soup, which is, you know.
No, she makes it, I think.
No, I think she takes it out of a can, girl.
Does she?
I think.
I thought I remember her like cutting stuff up.
Maybe. Maybe she does, but I picture her like open up a can of Campbell's tomato and like,
oh my god,
toss it in a pot. Maybe I made that up, but we'll have to go back. We'll double check the deets. But then chapter 55 happens. He says all his story and his feelings. They have an emotional paint filled like rompous session. And they have a lot of very unprotected sex. And I think because they do that, there's a conversation that happens between them on page 541 that I would love to see if you think this is red or green flag in regards to discussing children and family planning. So Feyre says, I'm not taking a tonic, and I haven't been, I mean. He set down his bread. Do you want to start taking it again? She says in her own mind, if I started today, it would negate what we'd done last night. But, and then she says out loud, if I'm a High Lord's mate, I'm expected to bear you offspring, aren't I? So perhaps I shouldn't. He responds, you are not expected to bear me anything, he snarled. Children are rare, yes, so rare and so precious. But I don't want you to have them unless you want to, unless we both want to. And right now, with this war coming in Highburn, I'll admit that I'm terrified at the thought of my mate being pregnant with so many enemies around us. I'm terrified of what I might do if you're pregnant and threatened or harmed. Something tight in my chest eased. Then I'll start taking it today once we get back. And then further down in that conversation, it says, Rhys said softly from behind me, I would be happy beyond reason, though, if one day you did honor me with children, to share that with you. I turned back to him. I want to live first, I said. With you, I want to see things and have adventures. I want to learn what it is to be immortal, to be your mate, to be a part of your family. I want to be ready for them. And I selfishly want to have you all to myself for a while. His smile was gentle, sweet. You take all the time you need. And if I get to you all to myself for the rest of eternity, then I won't mind that at all. Is this conversation a red or a green flag?
Okay, the court, it's a green flag. This is consent. This is consent. This is conversation about what they want their future to look like. I love this. This should be more of real life things.
Yes, I could not agree more with you. This is a green flag conversation. I gave this one to us because the other two are so fraught. This one, I was like, we just need a green flag moment right here. And so for me, for the same reasons you said, number one, Rhys says, it's your choice. It's your choice. It's your body. And I will be happy if you decide not to have kids or to have kids. It would be really joyful for me if you did. He's saying what he wants, but he's not putting any pressure on her. Mm-hmm. She's acknowledging what she wants and saying, and I think I love even he refutes. She's like, well, shouldn't I have to bear you children? He's like,
yeah,
skirt, absolutely not. So y'all take notes. If you're trying to have family planning conversations, just look to Rhys and Feyre because they're out here checking in with each other, asking each other what they want. They're talking about, having kids in a way that's safe and consenting and in a time that's going to work for both of them. And
especially, and I think especially with, the upcoming war, is that a time to have a child and deal with those type of issues that may arise? So I love this moment and I love that you brought it versus discussing the mate situation, because this is a more probably not talked about moment. Mm-hmm. It's so green flag.
It's we're making it rain green flags up in here. We're throwing green flags left and right. Green flag. So the court has spoken. Green flag bestowed upon you, my lady, my lord. And that is going to wrap up our red flag court.
Woo!
And now it is time for our counselor's couch. We've been talking so much about what's happening in the realm of Prythian and all these things, but what does it mean when we take this to the real world? So come sit on our counselor's couch.
Come on in. It's
comfy. Come on in. Grab a tea, mayhaps, and we have a couple blankies here. Maybe get comfy.
Grab a little squishy toy. Chill.
A fidget.
Yeah.
grab the emotion wheel pillow if you want, and whatever you want to do. Come post up, and we're going to give you some insights about how these books can help you navigate the day-to-day world. Yarlin, what do you have on the counselor's couch today?
So, something that I noticed and really liked for my portion of like the counselor's couch is the kind of the impact of like intuition and relationship dynamics. I feel like are an important factor in what we see in this book and in real life. There are moments in the book where Feyre, who I think is a very intuitive person, but maybe it could just be the nature of like being a fae, but we do see her like POV, her thoughts. She notices when her body responds to things and when she doesn't feel safe or confident in her decisions. Hence, like the wedding scene where she thinks about escaping and wanting to be saved. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if Reese hadn't shown up and would she have said no. But either way, in our everyday intuition and being in tune with our body and feelings, and having that confidence to express it, I think it's an important part in choosing our path and like what feels right to us in the moment. Because I feel like sometimes people kind of deny their intuition or like question it, and sometimes like some people believe in like what's meant for me and like whatever the signs are, but like those are our own like intuitions, and being connected to that can help you almost feel like more like yourself and more feel like in control of this is what feels right, this is what I want to do, and kind of going with that. And then with the relationship dynamics, we see two different relationship attachments and the behaviors with Reese and Tamlin, both with Feyre. We notice how Tamlin showed some red flags, but it was easily hidden or distracted by lovely gestures. And he really is like a beast inside. So with Reese from the beginning, had discussed Feyre, her freedom and her choice when he is with her. And I think those are powerful to witness, and even being able to reflect on relationships in our life where some individuals act more possessive, and relationships can become very unhealthy. So, like when you follow your intuition and know those red flags, it can be like you can begin to distance yourself from a person that doesn't feel right for you, or the type of partner that you want. So, I do also notice sometimes you recognize the red flags more when you're more matured and like more an adult, um, versus like when you're young, like a teenager or like early adulthood. It's hard to know what those red flags are if you haven't experienced anything else or any other relationship. So I think those were really important parts that we like notice and can take on to like the real life perspective.
Yeah, I really like that you incorporate intuition, because it in some ways, and people interpret this as you said in different ways, like for some people there's a spiritual component, for some people it's just about how you feel in your body. And I will say, so many times when folks are trying to make decisions and they're like, I really don't know what I want to do, or I really don't know what's right, I direct back to, how are you feeling in your body? What is your body telling you right now? And so many times folks will say, like, cognitively, like in my mind, these two options seem equally sort of viable. But often, like, when people will say, like, when I think about this option, there's just a pit in my stomach, or it just doesn't feel right, or my chest is tight, or my throat feels like there's a frog in it. And so being able to pay homage to knowledge at multiple levels, to take in the cognitive side, yes, use your mind, use your rationale, all that is so important. And sometimes our bodies are telling us something, or if you believe in spirituality, sometimes people get a spiritual sense of something going on, and that is just as important to the process as whatever your mind is sort of spinning through the wash.
Yeah, and it's funny because when in like in the counseling space, when I am seeing like clients who are more like highly spiritual or like closely related more to religion than I am, I can still have an understanding of like what those like intuitions and like spiritual guidance is with them. Like just because I don't I don't have their same like religion doesn't mean that I can't understand. So I think I connect to that like intuition. It's like, okay, like for you, you see that as like a sign from God and like what he's putting in your path. And like for me, I can see that as like that's a way of like your own intuition. And that's how I can connect and like still see people even though I'm not like a religious like counselor or like, you know, because sometimes people want to go to someone who has like those same views, but it's cool to see that, you know, even in moments like that when you can still connect and like see what they mean.
Absolutely. And it's the universality of like however you make meaning of it, there's a universality in like my gut feeling. Like I've rarely run into somebody who has said I've never had a gut feeling before. Like however you interpret it, there is an element of knowledge and awareness that exists under the surface outside of how we make language. Like the front part of your brain is what makes language, but there's a whole other back part that's operating and taking in information and trying to keep you safe that is outside of language. So it is not surprising when someone says like, I just don't know. Even if they don't know how to explain it, like I just have this feeling. And it's like, maybe your brain is taking in something that you are not perceiving with your language, but like something's going on that feels yucky. And so being able to help people navigate that. And sometimes you never identify the reason. Like you go, in my gut, this just doesn't feel right. And maybe that's as far as you need to go with it to do what feels right for you. I think honoring it, whatever that meaning is, whether you feel like it's God or spirituality or your gut or your body, honoring that just as much as we honor those complex cognitive sort of things that we're doing to decide how we want to proceed.
Yeah. So that is my counselor couch. Thanks for coming in and hanging out.
Girl, it's so nice in here. It's so cozy, and I love that you brought that to us today. So thank you.
Yeah, let's head on over to your office and sit on your couch.
Let's turn on my noise machine and we'll sit on down and we'll turn off the overhead lights and we'll put on the warm light so we're not straining our eyes. If you can't tell, like so much about counseling is also setting the space. Like
I loved my office. I mean, I never told you guys, but I'm a telehealth clinician now, but I loved being in my office and I loved when you and I like just hung out and chilled.
Vibed in the office. Yeah. Counseling offices are some of the most peaceful places, to be honest. Yes. Like, there's noise machines, the lighting's good, the chairs are comfy. Like
I was going to say there's usually snacks, you know.
Yeah, water, tea. I'm telling you, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about going to counseling, but you're not sure about it, I think it's now it's hard work, right? Like it's hard work.
Of course, yeah.
You're doing work on yourself, but like as a space, it's just such a cool place to like kind of drop into your own process and like have all the space set for you to do that. So 10 out of 10 recommend. We're biased, but that's what we think. So my counselor couch moment is based on our green flag from our red flag court. The momentary green flag break that we got from the other angsty parts. And it's about family planning. And as is the case with Reese and Farah, so many families are faced with conversations and complexities around pregnancy, family planning, even unprotected sex and kind of how people want to approach their sexual health. It's a really nuanced topic. And I want to highlight, before I give you some like tips and tricks and things that I've seen, everybody's situation is different. It's so important that you work out what's best for you. And there are some things that I've seen that I've talked with folks that sort of are themes. So I'll introduce the themes and kind of give you my take. But as always, do what's right for you. Seek out your own people and your own support. The first thing is discussions and clear communication. And this is where Farah and Reese, they really knocked it out of the park. For a lot of families, conversations about the desire for children and family planning are really important. Everybody has different views and desires about how they want their family to be structured. And children may or may not be a part of those desires. More and more folks are choosing to not have children, to have children later in life, to adopt, to foster. There's so many ways that this conversation can go, and you should communicate clearly about your preferences, your thoughts, and your desires. Now, I do want to highlight, this doesn't mean that you have to have all the answers all at once. It doesn't mean that you can't change your mind. It doesn't mean that you're locked in. Like if you say, I want kids today, it doesn't mean that in 2 years you can't have changed your mind. It's just about having that open dialogue consistently, being open with where you're at, and it helps your partner to make a fully formed decision about their family structure. So if you really don't want children, and your partner does, it is so important that you are open about that, so that your partner can make a decision about what's going to be right for them. And that can be really hard, because it means, maybe it means you break up, maybe it means that you come back together or whatever. But everybody should be able to make fully formed decisions about whether your goals and desires align.
Yeah, and I agree, because I have my own personal example with that, where we were both on like, no, we're just gonna do one, we're good, life's good, we can do all the other life stuff, and then some time passed, and then we changed our mind, and we're like, yeah, we can have two. So it's always an ongoing conversation. Nothing is ever like solidified unless like you do feel strongly about it, but that's how you got to communicate with your partner about like what you want, and both of you kind of align and see what works out best. But yeah, nothing absolutely. Like, things can change. So
absolutely. And on the flip side of that, if you know yourself and it's not going to change, stick to your guns. Like,
right.
If you're saying, I want kids, I know that I want kids, and that to be true for you, and you have a sense that will never change, communicate that. You're allowed to change your mind later if it turns out to be that way, but wherever you are with your convictions, be clear about that. Same thing if you never want to have kids, be clear with your convictions. The second thing that I wanted to highlight is body autonomy in birthing parents. If you decide that bringing children into your family, or having one or more partners giving birth is a part of that, there are several things to think about. Whoever decides to be a birthing parent, it's important to recognize that they're going to be taking on lots of risk, changes to their body, surgery or surgeries, risks to their safety and the birth of a child. And while they might choose to take into account their partners or families in this decision, ultimately it should be theirs to make. Coercion, threats, blackmail, and any other form of manipulation should not be used in birthing decisions. So if you're a person who's considering being a birthing parent, know that there's body autonomy here, that you should have the ability to do what's right for your body.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy that some of those like more intense forms of like manipulation even like happen. Like that's crazy. So yeah, it's really important to know, like, if you are a birthing parent or gonna be one, like it still can be up to you.
And then the last thing I will say is recognizing the complexity of family planning. I think there's this vision of like cis heterosexual man, cis heterosexual woman, two parents, having a blood related child, in a suburban home. Like there's like this like vision of what people think families look like. And there are a multitude of experiences and formulations around family planning and birthing that are all emotional, all impactful, all valid. That very specific vision that I just outlined is one way to have a family, one way of endless formulations behind families. And because there is such diversity within families around gender, around partners, around sex and sexuality, we need to recognize that there are lots of conversations that are potentially being had and that I've had with clients around family planning. These conversations can include things like infertility, miscarriage, medical complications during pregnancy, hormone shifts during pregnancy and after birth, postpartum changes, postpartum depression, challenges and changes in fostering children, barriers to adoption, especially for LGBTQ plus families. And these are just a few examples. We could talk ad nauseum of all the things that go into this. And so I want to just posit that it can be really helpful to get mental health and medical help both at the same time. I know that there's I think for a lot of folks, an emphasis on like, okay, are you taking prenatal vitamins and like medical interventions? But I contend that it could be really important to do the mental health work as well and get folks on your team who are well versed in mental health care for family planning. It's okay if you have an intense emotional experience around family planning. It can be a beautiful, wonderful thing. It can also be really difficult or traumatic. It can be all of it. So being kind and compassionate with yourself, and if you're a person who's engaging in family planning stuff, being kind with yourself, with someone you're doing family planning with, and really refrain from making assumptions or pressuring people to approach it in a certain way is so important. If you're a person who is having family planning, conversations, or someone is having family planning conversations, not putting pressure upon that person to do family planning in any one way. And that's my shtick on that, my spiel.
Okay. I mean, I totally loved, you being able to touch on those things. And I do think even also with people, like you mentioned, it's like, aside from getting medical help and advice, the mental health piece is really important too, especially if you're a person who already does struggle with some mental health issues. I think you doing that even when you're pregnant or going to have a family, like that is a really important way of support to, help avoid like the postpartum depression and have like the ongoing support while dealing with like maybe some other diagnoses as well. So, yeah, I think all very important topics and can really be a big difference in like your experience.
Absolutely. So, all that being said, I feel like the overarching theme is like, be kind to yourself, and use your intuition when you need to, and know that life is complex and sometimes difficult, and it's okay to have a process and to get help with that. Thank you for coming into office today. Thank you.
Thanks for sitting on our couch.
Thank you so much.
Come again next time.
Same day, same time next week.
Yes.
We'll see you then. And that leaves us, lastly but certainly not leastly,
to what's up in the realm.
Okay, Yarla, what do you got going on? What are you reading now?
What am I reading? I'm gonna be reading A Court of Wings and Ruin, of course. Our next ep. We're gonna be reading that. I am still reading Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia because I had to put it down to finish Court of Mist and Fury. So I'm gonna be finishing that. That might be kind of the last book I read in March. We'll see if I can sneak another one in. But that's what's up in my realm. What about yours?
So we got a couple things going on in the realm. Number one, and you and I talked a little bit about this before we started the podcast, but I feel like I need to say it in listener ears as well.
Yeah, because that's a good rec.
Yeah, I just finished a few days ago The Everlasting by Alex Harrow. I can't begin to explain to you how like life I was having deep thoughts that I have never had. It took me to a place, it was so impactful. It was so impactful. It's only 300 pages. I thought I was going to be able to breeze through it. Falsehoods. I was so deeply impacted by this book. If I could give it 6 stars, I would. Not a book to read as a throwaway. You can't just skippity do through this book. You got to sit with yourself. You got to sit with yourself. You got to sit with your deep thoughts. And it was incredible.
Wow. I mean, I told you I'm going to read it because of this amazing recommendation.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, it's not one, you can't skim through it. It's at the first line. I opened the book and it was just deep. And I was like, oh my God. Okay.
You're like, what did I get myself into?
Honestly, I bought the book because it had a pretty cover and a pretty map. And I was like, wow. Yeah. I underestimated this book. So I finished that. It was excellent and very impactful. I'm almost done with Warrior Princess Assassin by Brigid Kemmerer. I ran out of audiobook listening hours on Spotify and I'm not using any Audible credits for that because I have an hour and 45 minutes left. So I'm just patiently waiting for the subscription to roll over. It's all right. I think some of the internal dialogue's a little repetitive, but it's fine. I did start A Court of Wings and Ruin because I was on a little break and I couldn't help myself. So I'm going to finish that. And then up next, I have Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maurer.
I've heard of that one.
I have a book club with my high school and college friends, kind of. It's sort of a mix of people. But this was my pick for our book club, so I'll have to see.
Your pick?
My pick. Okay. It was my pick. So I'll have to see. And then reading Fan Service by Rosie Dannon. And it's about werewolves, and that's all I know.
Oh, because it doesn't sound like a werewolf name, you know?
No, it's I don't know. I was just told it was about werewolves. I'm co-reading it with somebody, and I'm like, okay.
Okay. I'm gonna have to look up what that book looks like.
Yeah. So that is what's going on in our realm as of today. And that leads us to our final remarks and social media shout outs. First and foremost, if any of today's topics were triggering or upsetting, please make sure to seek out individualized mental health treatment. And remember that this podcast is for fun. It's based on our opinions and experiences, and it shouldn't be used for diagnosing, assessing, or treating mental health conditions. I feel like today there was some heavy stuff. So take care of yourself. In our next episode, out on April 8th, we will cover A Court of Wings and Ruin. We're on our way, girl.
I know. Oh my gosh.
In the Be Ready for ACOTAR 6 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it. We're doing the damn thing. So be on the lookout for that and continue this journey with us as we look into the psychology of our favorite characters. And lastly, if you'd like to support or interact with us, please make sure to subscribe and rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram at FamFablesPod. You can email us at famfablespod@gmail.com. And guess what? We have merch. If you go to the link tree in our Instagram, you can find our Etsy page. An avid listener of the show, Sarah, has bought a shirt from us.
Shout out to Sarah.
Yes, she's a real one. So this little shout outs for you, Sarah. Thank you for merching and repping us wherever you go.
Yeah.
And then all that's left is to say thank you so much for listening, and we will see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.